From JKIA, ouko felt what most young children feel at home whenever your mother tells you, kuja tu, hakuna kitu nitakufanya. Then when you enter, she locks the door, she changes. You really regret trusting her. Ouko had been warned in the USA not to come back to Kenya. I think he had that feeling then that he made a mistake coming back to Kenya. But all the same, he played along. He went to, from a foreign visit, he had to visit the president at State House for a debriefing. Debriefing is reviewing the trip, talking it and discussing it. Ouko used that opportunity to seek for permission to go and visit his constituents. And then there was a foreign trip which ouko, so he was saying that between today and the day I'll be having such and such a trip, let me go to my constituency and visit the people. Those days, members of the cabinet were MPs. So they did their cabinet work. At the same time, they were members of parliament. So he used that opportunity to plan a few things, including he organized with prominent Luo leaders to visit them and discuss his situation. The prominent Luo leaders included John Anguka, the then district commissioner in Nakuru, also included Ezekiel Oyugi and others. That is plan A, if I can call it that. He also organized to meet Mr. Peter Kibiego Lagat, who was then the district commissioner for Kericho. Peter Kibiego Lagat is somehow related to President Moi. We have a person called Ruben Chesire and Zipporah Kitonyi. Both are children of, they are siblings, they are children of the same mother and father. Their mother is related to Moi, so they treat Moi as their maternal uncle. Peter Kibiego Lagat's mother is also related to Moi, so he also treats Moi as his maternal uncle. So ouko trying to meet Peter Kibiego Lagat in Kericho, the purpose was to go and tell him, ongea na mjomba yako. That was the purpose. So when he went to visit Peter Kibiego Lagat in Kericho, our people knew and they were waiting. So he went to Kericho, talked to Peter Kibiego Lagat. Whatever they talked, there were two. On the way back, he underwent hostile surveillance. Now, hostile surveillance, I can talk of it briefly in two. It happened to Bishop Muge on his way to Busia and back. So, and I've also covered in my tapes hostile surveillance. So please watch hostile surveillance. Hostile surveillance leads you to have an accident, just like Muge had. And it happened to Robert Ouko on his way back to Kisumu. When he had an accident, him being a minister for foreign affairs or a member of the cabinet and NSAC, he knew he had a few intelligence briefings and training. So he knew that that was may have been an assassination attempt. So he looked around. The vehicle that was nearby was a lorry, was a tractor. So he boarded that tractor and requested the tractor driver to take him to Aga Khan Hospital in Kisumu for treatment. From this place of accident to Kisumu is very far, and it becomes even far using a tractor. So I told Gorsungu, the Parliamentary Select Committee, that that driver must be dead, because it was assumed that for ouko to move with all the time with that driver from the scene of accident, you know, it is near Kericho. Now, I want you, if you visit those places or come from those places, to board a vehicle from Ahero Nyando, go to Kisumu, see how far it is, and then assume that you have a tractor from the scene of accident to Kisumu. I think you'll take double the time. So I assured Gorsungu and the Parliamentary Select Committee that that driver must be dead. You kill him so that if he has information or doesn't have information, you don't take chances. I've explained the accident. Kikuyu say, wagoshokane oleaga modo. The second people he saw were the prominent Luo people. And they told him, they gave him a condition, that meeting you will be risky. You know that the intelligence gets everybody. Your secretary spies on you. Your domestic employees spy on you. Everybody spies on you. If we have to visit you at night, we want to visit you at night where people are not seeing. We want to visit you at your home, where, you know, meeting you in a hotel, people will see. So we meet you at your royal home. We want to meet you where your domestic employees are not there. We don't want your domestic employees to go. You know, domestic employees are only to go and see the nearest special branch handler and tell them, ouko was visited by A, B, C, D. So ouko was requested for us to come, make sure that you are alone in the home. But something happened. Not Oyugi, Anguka suspected something may cook up later. So he changed his plans and sent his bodyguard and his driver and his vehicle to go and collect ouko. You know, ouko seeing vehicles, familiar vehicles, he'll open the gate. So that is why Anguka was in Nakuru. And those days, there is this lady who recently was head of the Matilda Waswa. She was a DO in, so her work was to distribute this public meeting. She was working in the DC's office, and her work was to issue, if you have a if you have a gathering, you get it. So Anguka, by virtue of being the DC, he opened the file that had all the public meetings at night, and he visited that as an alibi. So we are back to Koru. In Koru, ouko was expecting people. So he called his workers, and his workers had stayed for several months without pay for various reasons. Those people, even who work for prominent people today, they'll tell you that they work for 3 or 4 months without pay, and they're given 3 or 4 months pay in lump sum. Furthermore, if you're working for a person like ouko, he pays fees for your students, for your kids. He pays your medical, whatever. You stay in the compound, you eat there, you don't pay rent. So you understand. So the people were paid all their money, and they were given a few days off. You don't even remember that all of you are leaving, because everybody is called to the room alone. It's told to discuss your problems. You are told whatever. You are given your 3 or 4 months salary. You come up with a cooked story. Unajua pia mimi nina hivi na hivi. It says, oh, so you want maybe some more money. You are given, and then you are told, okay, be away for so many days. So they left for so many days. When they left for so many days, we Africans, whenever even right now, nikitembea mtu anirushie 10,000, immediately I feel like having a ceremony. So Selina, instead of going away, Selina Were, she organized for people to come. I mean, for a few friends to maybe have some bite and drink. And when they were having a bite and drink, she went out and observed something. And that one, I'll come to that, what she observed. So Ouko felt that he was alone. He didn't know that Selina Were had remained, but we religious detectives will tell you that no crime is perfect. So Ouko was remaining alone. He was in pajamas and a torch and a walking stick, where he wanted a Somali sword. He wanted to go and open the gate for the Luo leaders so that they come and meet him and discuss how they can counter the propaganda against him. When he opened the gate, seeing familiar vehicles, he didn't see the familiar Luo leaders. He saw GSU personnel armed with rifles. He tried to run away and they held him, and he tried to make some noise. And that is the time when Selina had gone out for a short call, and she came back and told those people who were there that Japonj, I'm called Japonj, is not a sponge, but it is a teacher. So Japonj had made a sound similar to a goat when it is supposed to be killed. Why didn't she go and find out or anything? Well, as we speak now, she's dead, but maybe, you know, when you're in a celebration mood and you don't expect anything, and you're in a celebration, maybe you have taken a few drinks, those things don't come to you. So he was placed in a vehicle and placed in a boot. Then they headed towards Nakuru from Koru. Upon reaching, he was placed in the boot. Upon reaching Kericho, they found that they fueled the vehicles, and he was in the boot. He listened. He knew it was a place. Then he kicked the boot open, and the petrol station attendant. So I don't know what went into the mind of the petrol station. You know, you see somebody in the boot. In Kenya, you don't. This is not Beirut. So you see somebody in the boot, you're shocked. Maybe you even see he resembles the minister. So, and as he was shocked in the millisecond, a pistol was placed on his ear, and he was told, just fuel and forget you ever saw such a thing. If you happen to say that, you will die. He did that. The boot was closed again. And between Kericho and Nakuru, it was at night, so Ouko was removed from the boot, and they started beating him. Sasa ulikuwa unajifanya nini? Ulikuwa unataka nini? Such a thing. It's like a mob justice. They beat him there, and that is where he broke his leg. Or they broke his leg. In English, they say he broke his leg, but in Kiswahili or African language, they say they broke his leg. Then they took him to State House. They went to State House. You know, State House, there are so many security details. Majorly, there are 5 or 6 groups. The first group at the gate is the G company from GSU. We used to joke that G stands for gate. Then inside, we have the presidential escort. Presidential escorts are whenever the president moves, you can see the vehicles written in red, presidential escort. Then there is the wreck company. In those days, nowadays I know there is a lot of CCTV here and there, but those days wreck used to be everywhere. They could even hide on trees, and whatever you do in SETA, though there were the CCTVs of those days, wreck company. So we have counted G company, presidential escort, wreck company. We have the CID. They have their own lineup there. Then we have the intelligence. We had our own lineup there. And then the military. The military were controlled by ADC. So everybody was there. The other formations can also disclose what happened because they were there. But with the special branch, there were 2 inspectors there. One was Inspector Wekesa from Misiho, who saw that and told me. But Wekesa was also immediately promoted to chief inspector and taken, well, first of all, was taken to Lodwa and made a chief, later made a chief inspector. And they said that Lodwa, the head of Lodwa was a chief inspector and the deputy was an inspector. So you cannot have 2 chief inspectors in Lodwa and 1 inspector. So he was transferred from Lodwa to Kajiado as the deputy. On his way back, at a place called Marich Pass, there was a suspicious accident. It is alleged. Now you see, the vehicle was traveling fast, but it is said that the driver saw a squirrel and avoided stepping on a squirrel, and the vehicle rolled, and Wekesa died. Yeah, he died. So, or was he killed? Ngarwa died a few years ago. Inspector Ngarwa Kinyanjui is from Limuru. He died recently of a natural cause. Then Kingori was asking me whether there is a natural death or a non-natural death. Now, if you are a gangster and flying squad shoot you, that is not a natural death. If you are hanged in committee, that is not a natural death. But if you die of a normal road accident, or if you die out of sickness, that is a natural death. So Ngarwa Kinyanjui died a natural death, where he was buried in Limuru, and nobody mentioned that he is a former spy. It speaks a lot. Maybe after retiring, he insisted that no references should be made about him. Now, at State House Nakuru, Biwott had convinced, and I'll cover that in other episodes, Biwott had convinced Moi that ouko wanted to overthrow the government. That is why they had gone abroad. I'll cover that. And ouko was more popular than Moi abroad. So that is why. And you see, in foreign countries, we have started that system now. You find that anybody who comes to Kenya is a minister or anything, is called Your Excellency. In those days, Your Excellency was only referred to 5 people. It was referred to the president, the spouse of the president, the vice president, the spouse of the vice president, and ambassadors and visiting heads of state. But nowadays, in addition, the Tanzanian Minister for Foreign Affairs, he comes to Kenya, you don't call him Right Honorable, you don't call him Honorable, you say Your Excellency. It's a sign of respect. Those things used to happen in those countries before, used to happen. And so when ouko was in America, the preferential treatment, which is covered in another tape, made ouko, when any Biwott convinced Moi that ouko wanted to overthrow him. So it was a sort of an interrogation, and the differences between ouko and Biwott, I'll cover it in another tape. So ouko's last minutes on earth, he was kneeling with a broken leg. He was crying. There were several people, more than 18, in that. You know, State House rooms are not like your Kibera 8 by 8. So in that room, which was big, a dome-like, the president was asking ouko to, both ouko and Moi were convincing ouko to admit that he was planning to overthrow Moi, and that he was sorry and he would never do such a thing. But ouko was crying because of pain and because of false accusation, and he was telling Moi that he was a genuine friend and he could not overthrow Moi. Then Biwott pretended Biwott pretended to be annoyed, took out a pistol, shot Ouko in one side, and Ouko died. That is, and nobody tells me how he was carried all the way from State House to Gotalila. Nobody has ever told me that. And that is when he was at Gotalila. He was then seen by a Shamba boy called Shikuku. I do believe that Shikuku may be alive, or if he has died, then he must have died a long time later, but under an assumed name. When I was talking to the Gor Sungu Commission, I was insisting that Selina Were was alive, and Gor Sungu told me that they had gone to her place and they had found a grave with the name Selina Were, showing that she was dead. And I told Gor Sungu that, did you exhume the body and find that it was Selina Were? He said no. They did some investigation, and Selina Were came out and said she was alive. What I'm trying to say is that some people went home, buried banana whatever, and then tried to show that they are dead so that they are not followed. Then that is what followed, and he was buried. Kindly watch other episodes, especially those related to Ouko, because I have segmented it into. I started with this episode where from the all episodes are important because they are interlinked, just like a cog, like a wheel. Each is a cog of each other. Each is important, but I made a conclusion that maybe the viewers would want to know from JKIA to the grave. Then from there, I'll segment episodes each and each. In your comment section, you can ask questions so that I include them in future recordings.